Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. I am so excited to introduce you to my new friend, Jerry Goldstein. Jerry comes to us with lots of gifts. He's an author, he's a mentor, he's a professional development expert. He also loves experiential learning, and he's a career development strategist, but he's also a dog dad to Mac. Mac is a royal Frenchel who is a service dog and is with him all the time. He absolutely loves his children. He has two, and even though they're adults, he still gets to spend a quality time with them. One of them is going with him to Japan soon because he loves to travel. And he is today our guest on Productive Joy. Jerry, welcome.
Thank you, Christy. It's great to be here.
I am so excited to get into this conversation. I love the title of your book. I'm super excited to get into that. But before we do all of that, what would you say to our listeners in like 30 seconds that would make them go, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this episode?
Well, I'd love to give everybody a large check, but that's not going to be able to happen. So I would just say, what I've always said is that career is all about confidence and your happiness. From my children to everyone I coach, I tell them if you can wake up in the morning energized and ready to get to work and happy to be there, then your career is going to thrive.
And I couldn't agree more, right? The Sunday scaries are real and a lot of people have them, but those turn into Monday scaries and Tuesday scaries, right? Like if you're dreading getting to work each day, then there's a problem and it's worth assessing. So you help people with that, yeah?
Yeah, I do my best.
So tell me what advice you would have for somebody that's getting up every morning and going, ugh, I just don't want to do this.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's what I call a reconstructive project, right? Because you have many people, and I liken it to, being a computer. Imagine yourself. You come out of college, or you even go to college, and you're kind of like a computer. A lot of times you don't know what you want to do, and you're sort of a blank slate. You don't have a lot of experiences. So it's kind of like people keep loading software on you, and it's a little different now, but you'll recall when we were younger, we used to buy software on a disk and load it into a computer.
Yeah, I learned to type on a typewriter. So yes, I hear all the things you're...
Yeah, when I went to law school, we didn't have word processors, so we had to type everything, but I digress. So, they're loading all this software on you. And then in 2 years, it's like, oh, no, that software is obsolete. You have to load more software. But you don't really erase what was there. You either upgrade it, update it, change softwares, and you still have all of this mess going on in your inner being until finally, if it was a real computer, we'd just scrap the computer and buy a new one with a larger processor and more memory. But we're people, you can't really do that. So, you have to sort of decompress and figure out where you want to be, where you want to go, and what is going to make you happy. What's going to make you get up every morning and say, I can't wait to start.
Yeah. So, okay, I heard several things there that I think are worth exploring a little bit. I love the analogy of a computer. And right now in 2026, we are dealing with the fastest growing AI we've ever seen, right? Like AI has been around for a long time, but all of a sudden it is doing some major things and it's getting smarter with each iteration. And I think that's the part of your analogy that I like, that okay, we have new software. We learned this new thing. We got certified in something. We experienced something, and that taught us X. But now we get to take X and build on X to get to Y. And I think that's where a lot of people miss it, right? So they don't realize that, oh, that ice cream scooping job that I had when I was 16 taught me this. And then when I got my degree and I started doing this, it taught me that. And then all of that has led me to be this kind of a leader. So I'm guessing that you help people put the pieces together to recognize that all of their experiences make them who they are.
100%. Everybody has skills. And in my book, I even talk about it. What's your unique value proposition? That's the first thing we talk about, because especially young people, when you say, well, what do you bring to the table? What differentiates you? A lot of times, like an enormous, surprisingly enormous amount of people will say, I don't really bring that much. I don't have any experience. I don't know what my unique value proposition is.
Right.
I assure you, everybody has one. You may feel like it's similar to somebody else, or, you know, that's fine, but you have to target what yours is. It's like a fingerprint. We all have them, but they're all different.
Yeah. Yeah. So my husband and I are marriage mentors for our church. And that means that we get to meet with couples who want to get married in our chapel and just give them some tools for their marriage. And one of the things we talk about are their fingerprints, that each one of them come to this marriage with their own unique fingerprint. But what they're creating is a collective fingerprint. And it brings those unique value propositions to the table. And then together they become one, right? Like, so, and we also use, we use a lot of analogies. Where you have a ball, right, and it's not perfectly round, but you're each half of that circle, and you're rolling around, getting rid of the rough edges, right? So going back to that fingerprint, that unique value proposition, I think about my children. So before we started, I mentioned that I technically have three 25-year-olds and a 26-year-old, if you want to look at it that way, by marriage and friendship and all of the things. And all of them, I think, are struggling a little bit with that unique value proposition. I've heard several of them more than once say, but I don't have any experience.
Right.
Well, yeah, you do, right? So what advice do you have for the younger generation to get them to go, actually, no, I'm pretty great. And here are some things that I'm great at.
Yeah. So I'll tell you from my personal experience, like I didn't know I was a career counselor, career coach. I didn't know I was good at that. I was practicing law, and I was reorganizing companies, and I was helping people with difficult situations. And during the pandemic, we were all locked down, and I was blessed to have everybody at home, but we were all working in our separate locations in the house. And I started volunteering to help students at the University of Miami come to New York, because a lot of them wanted to start their careers in New York, but you couldn't interview, you couldn't come here in person.
Oh, yeah.
So I was connecting people and sharing my network and things like that. And my wife walked into the room and she said, I can hear everything you're doing when I'm in the kitchen. And I just want you to know, when you're practicing law, you sound like you're prepared to strangle someone. But when you are helping a young person or connecting with your network, you are so happy. And I just want to let you know, I like happy Jerry.
No.
And she left and walked out. And I was like, what do you do with that? Like, what does that mean? But I realized that she had pinpointed a unique value proposition. And that was not only my networking ability, but the networking that I had done for so many years to create this very large, very loyal, very productive group of people that could get a lot done in a major city. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. So going back to your original question, your younger professionals or college students could be asking someone very close to them, like, what do you think of when you think about me? And it doesn't have to be a parent or, somebody you live with. It could be a best friend. It could be, if you're working at Starbucks, ask the manager, what do you think my value proposition is? Everybody has one. And when you start having those conversations, you'd be shocked at what people think about you, and mostly in a very positive way.
Yeah.
Very fulfilling.
But we can't see it ourselves sometimes, right? Like I think what you said is powerful, that we need to go to our network and ask rather than making assumptions, because I know I downplay things that I'm good at because, oh, everybody's good at that or anybody can do that. The reality is that's not true, right? I do have unique gifts that other people really struggle with. And my friends, my family are the best ones to point that out. I love that your wife told you. The pandemic taught us a lot about all working together, and we did learn. So you walked away from law altogether and went this direction?
Yeah, so I was under contract with a company and I started to feel I had a buyout option. I started to feel like I didn't want to continue down the road I had been down. I was working around the clock and law is a tough, to do it well, it's very time consuming and it's tough. It's very emotional sometimes, especially dealing with high stakes litigation and things like that. So I felt like I was ready to make a pivot and I didn't know into what, but my wife sort of put me on this trajectory and I started to leverage the network saying things like, people would be coming to me saying, "Oh, I know you're leaving your current gig. Why don't you come into the firm as a partner and, start this area of practice?" And I started saying, well, what if I came in? I don't need to be a partner, but I can do professional development with the associates and I can train everybody and make sure they're credentialed and, you know, do that kind of work. And one of my friends, a good friend, I was sitting at his desk and he's looking at me and I'm like, oh, he thinks I lost my mind. Like I want to do professional development. And he looks at me and he says, you would be so good at that. Would you consider doing that for my alma mater? I just got off the phone with my law school dean, and they're looking for someone to do that.
Look at that.
Yeah. So I said, sure, put me in touch. I didn't end up going to that school because it was kind of far away and I wanted to stay in New York City. But again, my wife was like, well, just call Fordham. It's right here. You'd be great at this. And of course, I'm like, you can't just call Fordham. Like, who am I going to call? You don't have like a switchboard operator. No. So I wrote a letter. Again, I don't want to date myself, but I typed a letter.
I feel you. I see you. I support the typed letter.
Yeah, I didn't know, I had no email address for anyone. So I put the letter in writing, signed it, put my resume in there. And I said, this is what I'm doing. This is what I would like to do. And I mailed it. And it was mainly just to appease my wife, to say, yeah, I mailed this and nobody ever answered. But 3 days later, I got a call.
Oh my goodness. I would call that the epitome of productive joy, right? You nailed it. You took something that you knew you were good at and you didn't let the fact that you didn't have an email or a contact or whatever stop you. And you put it out there. What power. Well done, Jerry. Well done. That has to follow up with my favorite question because ultimately I just said I see that as productive joy, but everybody gets their own definition. So if you had to define productive joy, how would you define it?
Oh, well, I just am so blessed and I remind myself of that every day. I wake up very early in the morning. I'm not one who likes to sit in traffic, so I make sure I don't. But that means I leave, my wife calls it dark 30.
I hear her. I'm an dark 30 riser also, though, so I understand.
Yeah. And I drive over the George Washington Bridge into Manhattan. And I usually do a nice walk. I like to be active. I'm in the office at my desk, super early. Some of my best friends are the maintenance people who are still working around the building. And I just make sure that I fill my day with plenty of things I love to do, knowing that I'll have to do things that I don't really enjoy or care to do, but it leads to me being able to do what I really want to do. And when I'm ready to leave, if it's 10 or 12 hours later, I leave with no, regrets. I know I've done enough. And, I just really try and tailor my day to being happy.
Well, and you have lunch with your daughter 3 times a week who happens to live very close to where you work. And so what I hear is that you are doing things you love and getting things done, right? And that's a beautiful definition of productive joy. I think, I've been doing this for a while now. I think you're episode like 280 or so. And
Wow.
every time I ask this question, I get a different answer. And yet there are some themes that are starting to crop up. And one of the themes is doing something you love so that it doesn't feel like work. And you took your law degree and all that you knew in this space and turned it into the parts that you like versus the, getting rid of some of the parts that you didn't enjoy as much, right? I see that and feel it so very well. How do you think you could help people create it? How can you help others? I mean, it seems to be that that's your job now, right? Like this career development and professional learning. How do you think others could do that too? Like, how can what you did be replicable?
So it's all about being an active listener.
Mm.
Most of the younger people I speak with, I mean, I counsel more than 600 people a year.
Mm.
And most of the time, I don't go into one of the first sessions I have with people with preconceived notions or, preparation for what I think they need. I go in as an active listener and I look for keywords and key phrases. And normally, right off the bat, they tell you,
Mm-hmm.
I'm either happy or I'm not happy, and this is why. And maybe not in so many words, but if you're listening and you can decipher what's going on, you can really direct the conversation in a very powerful way, very quickly. And, probably 5 or 10 minutes into every conversation, I have a go-to, which is, this is what I'm hearing. Is that what you're telling me?
Mm-hmm.
And half the time people's faces drop. I can't believe you just repeated that back. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Or maybe there's a little tweak, or maybe it's correct, but they don't want to admit it. There's all different scenarios. But yeah, once you break through that, then it's like, okay, how can I give you a path to get to where you want to be? And what's the path of least resistance?
Right.
So yeah, it's just become so, I don't want to say it's easy for me, but it's so ingrained in every conversation I have.
Mhm.
And there's all kinds of theories out there, the 10,000 hours and this and that. But the reality is, once you do it a lot, you're just like, okay, this is what I'm hearing and this is where you want to go, right? And then,
You're leading the witness just a little, but
well, I've always been very good at that.
you did study that persuasive speak, right? But that's your unique value proposition. It's
Yeah.
the thing that is easy for you that might be difficult for others. And so I think it is the 10,000 hours, it is the schooling, but it's also just that innate ability to see through and weed out the noise and get to the point, which I think is beautiful and impressive. And so you took all of that brilliance and you said, all right, I'm going to help others and I'm going to write a book. And that book is going to get other people to be able to get my unique value proposition without having to sit in front of me. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so the book is really a result of my note taking during all of these conversations. And when I started to see these recurring themes, especially students and young professionals. So I said to myself, I'm going to create these little outlines because I really want to have conversations. I don't want, the student or the young person to be sitting there writing everything down. I want to have a conversation. So maybe if I have an outline, I can email it to them. When the subject, comes up, I'll pull that topic, I'll email it to them. They'll have their little outline, and then I can say, don't write, let's just talk.
Yeah.
That's how it really started. And after, probably 400 or 500 meetings, I was like, I can't keep track of all this. This is like a book. And the little bell went off, says, okay, let's write the book. And that's really how it happened.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so tell the audience, because I love the title. I think it's so fun. Tell the audience the title, and then who is this book for?
So, yeah, great. So the title is a funny story. I have a good friend who was the head of global HR for Citibank. And he retired and we decided we should do a podcast because much like me, he was counseling hundreds of people young professionals, graduates, college students, and we were helping people together. Somebody asked us to do a workshop, and then we did a live question and answer. And somebody said, you guys should do a podcast. So we started this podcast. And because I was at Fordham, we were trying to come up with a name for it. And we went to my student workers. We got a group of like 20 student workers. And we said, what would you call this? And they said, Spilling the Career Tea.
Love it.
So that was our podcast. And then the book hadn't been completed yet. So when the book came out, it was only natural that I capitalized on that name and I called it Spilling the Career Tea.
Well, and it'll hit your appropriate audience if you are trying to get younger kids to get it, because spilling the tea is a thing, right? And
Right.
that is so fun. Well done, sir. I love a couple things. I love that you have decided that every experience is a learning experience and that the people around you are going to benefit from knowing the things that you know. So you're going to let that out. But you're also learning from them, right? Like you're learning from all of the people that you're surrounded by, to the tune of naming your book because they said to, right?
Right.
And you're also evolving as you go so that you're not just stuck. And I think, to me, those that I talk to that are genuinely happy in their space, in their workspace, would agree with that. I think a lot of our listeners are seeking that, right? They're looking for more productive joy, because we realize, I mean, we spend 90,000 hours in a lifetime at work, and that's if we don't work overtime. So if 90,000 hours of my time is going to be spent doing something, you better darn believe that I'm going to enjoy it. And maybe that's just my personality, but I don't think anybody wants to go somewhere that they dread. So thank you for creating spaces for people to learn how to make it great.
Yeah, no, you don't have to thank me. Like, I'm having a blast. I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm enjoying myself, and I love helping people, especially young people. I mean, certainly I would help anybody and I love it, but I always think back to myself, well, what would my life have been different, or what would have changed if somebody had helped me get a job out of college, or told me what employers were looking for?
Yeah.
Or how about if I handled this situation a little differently? And, what would have changed? And it's not that I regret anything. It's just that in our generation, you never really had that kind of push, that kind of consulting. So
People did whatever they did for 30 years, right? Like you stayed in the same job, and that's not the case anymore.
right. Well, you had that software loaded on you, right?
Yeah.
You were literally programmed to think, I get a job and I stay there and I'm loyal and I stay here until I retire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think there is a little bit left over of that, where some of this generation is afraid to pull the trigger because they think that they'll be stuck there. And the reality is, it's like every 2 to 3 years, something shifts. So I think everything you're doing is brilliant and wonderful. And all of our listeners are going to gain lots of things from you being willing to spill the career tea. And I know that they're only going to listen for so long before they move on. So are you willing for some rapid fire questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, this is my favorite part because I get to learn a little bit more about you. So, what is your definition of fun, Jerry?
Fun is just spending time with people I love, doing things that are meaningful, but not too serious.
I think that's a really good definition. How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
My wife will tell me if I'm not, but
She sounds like a pretty great lady.
yeah, she is. And I genuinely am at that point in my life where I'm not trying to trick anybody. I am who I am.
Well, I am learning that with age that comes, but it sure is nice if you can find it earlier than that.
Sure.
Right? And the more you can practice it, the better. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
Just think about the good things. There's always going to be bad things, but I'm a big proponent of just saying to myself, today's a great day. Tomorrow might really suck, but let's just focus on today.
Yeah. Yeah. Control your controllables, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, Jerry, my goodness, you have said so many wonderful things. You talked about finding your unique value proposition and the importance of that. You also took all of those recurring themes that you heard and you turned them into a book, and that book is called Spilling the Career Tea. The question that I circled is, what do you think of when you think of me? Asking the people around you, when you think of Christy McMullen, what are the things that come to mind so that you know how you're putting yourself out there, but then also what that unique value proposition is. You dropped gold, and people will only remember one major thing from a 30-minute conversation. So what piece of gold would you like to hand them very carefully?
So all I can say is if you have confidence in yourself and in your career and you enjoy it to the point where you wake up every day and you're raring to go and you can't wait to get in to start your job, you will have success in your career. And success in your career means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But whatever it means to you, you can achieve with just those two elements, confidence and being happy.
I love that. Well said, well said. Listeners, you just got a master class in all things knowing yourself and using what you know to build a career that you love. So thank you, Jerry, for choosing to be a guest on Productive Joy. It was a true delight.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I really love what you're doing. I hope you consider coming on our podcast, Building a Community.
Yes, the answer is yes. I would absolutely love that. And listeners, again, you just are getting so much great information, but if you don't do anything with it, it was a waste of your time. So go change something. I don't know what your something will be. I'm hopeful that it's that you're going to ask some friends what your unique genius is so that you can walk away with that unique value proposition in here, especially on those hard days. And I need you to do me a favor and figure out a way to turn fun into action.